COVID-19 cases in the country rise.
Inspector General of Police directs strict compliance with social restriction orders issued by government.
Anglican Primate advocates increased coronavirus sensitization in rural areas.
While the government is doing everything in the urban centers to monitor what's going on, efforts should be made by the Ministry of Health to ensure that the rural areas are well policed.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall discuss COVID-19 and the possible role of alternative medicine.
Reaching like wildfire across the globe, and as at the last count, there are cases in Ogun State and 1 case each in Ekiti and Oyo states.
Well, Kirian, it is possible that as we're talking right now, testing is ongoing in parts of the country to confirm whether some suspected cases are positive or negative. But the reality is that what started sometime in December 2019 as a major health crisis in China has now become a global pandemic that, of course, has radically altered human relations.
You are quite right, Kingsley, because major halls, cancellation of sporting activities and competitions and government activities at all tiers of government, and the restriction of religious and other public gatherings to 20 or 50 persons as announced by some state governments.
That's right, Kiria. Now, of course, you know that whatever impacts heavily on religion in Nigeria can be quite serious. So far, Nigeria has been recording imported cases of COVID-19 and with very low level of community or local transmission of the virus.
Yeah, thankfully, two of the cases in the country have been discharged and no deaths yet from the virus, according to the federal health authorities and the Lagos state government. And one of the 2 discharged is the index case of the Italian, who was the first known victim in Nigeria.
Well, that's absolutely something to cheer about, Kirian, in the midst of the pandemic. But I'm sure that just like you and I here in the studios, many Nigerians who are watching would also be interested in knowing what kind of medication those 2 cases received that led to their recovery and eventual discharge, even though that is in the realm of professional physicians to discuss, so that persons don't have a resort, as it were, to self-medication. But it's also the case that there are persons who are at present undergoing clinical management on account of the contraction of the virus.
Well, it's just like what happened during the Ebola saga. The medical professionals had to try some medications and therapies to see how it will work. But if it works, then you hang on to it. That's what's happening globally. Yes. It is said that curiosity kills the cat. But certainly not in this situation where, we are faced with a dreaded pandemic and people are looking for medications with which to protect themselves or build their immunity to coronavirus.
Well, the Director General of the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, has already warned Nigerians not to go into panic buying of chloroquine as a preventive medication against coronavirus. Now, she has stressed emphatically that chloroquine is mainly for clinical trials at the moment, and that NAFDAC has only given its approval to May & Baker, a pharmaceutical company, to produce more chloroquine to be used for clinical trials in the treatment of coronavirus.
You know, the chloroquine dimension was brought in by U.S. President Donald Trump last week, and health officers are actually examining whether it's possible to actually administer chloroquine on those who are already infected to see how it will react to that. Yes, but now, the once rejected chloroquine has now become a much sought-after drug for clinical trials, since coronavirus symptoms are said to be similar to malaria. We hear too that countries like Japan, India and China have been combining local drugs and herbs used for the treatment of swine flu and malaria to treat coronavirus patients, with successes recorded.
Well, it's against that background, of course, that we are asking what is the place of alternative medicine in combating the ravaging coronavirus? Do we have roots or herbs in our forests that can serve as a treatment for the known symptoms of coronavirus? And how do our alternative medical practitioners view what is playing out with regard to coronavirus? Do they have something to say?
Yes, we just hope that we don't begin to have some claims, you know, as we had during the HIV and what have you.
That's right.
Because the strain of coronavirus is quite strange to the medical family. Well, if they do, Kingsley, we will get to hear them this morning on the program as we focus on COVID-19 and the role of alternative medicine in the containment of the virus. Welcome to Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of NTA. My name is Kirian Umayo.
And I'm Kingsley Osadolo. I joined my colleague Kirian to also welcome you to the program, coming to you as always live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We're broadcasting from Abuja headquarters studios, and in the course of the program we have our regular companion segments. Newspaper review, business and others. Of course, the sporting world is still in limbo. Bad news over the weekend. Enugu Rangers lost some of his players in an auto accident.
I thought they said one died instantly.
Yes, well, I think they all died eventually. Unfortunately, of course, the league has been suspended, and they were traveling from Enugu to Lagos when they had a car crash. We also saw that one of the casualties of coronavirus, the former president of one of the world's biggest soccer clubs, Real Madrid. He passed away. He was in his 70s. He died of coronavirus. All right. In the meantime, let's take the highlights of the morning news. And here is Nolile Belame with the update. Good morning, Nolile.
Good morning, Kingsley and Kieran. Good morning, Nigeria. Here is the morning news. Since its onset in Nigeria, February, the coronavirus has risen from just the index case to 30 cases as at March 22nd, 2020, with 2 patients already discharged. Lagos topped the chart of cases with 22 diagnoses, followed by the FCT with 4 cases and Ogun State with 2 cases. Oyo and Ekiti states have 1 case each. Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has directed all civil servants on grade level 1 to 12 to remain at home for the next 14 days as part of precautionary measures to curb the spread of the coronavirus disease. The governor gave the order while updating the media on the status of the virus in the state.
This is not the time for fake news and unverified news, especially on the social media. Let me also appeal to the media community in its entirety to support the battle by helping amplify these various guidelines and advice of all the contact numbers that we have set out. 14 days at the minimum, self-isolate yourself if you have just come back from an international travel.
The Federal Capital Territory has recorded 1 case of COVID-19 in addition to the 3 cases earlier reported on Saturday, March 21st, 2020, bringing the total number to 4 persons. The Acting Secretary, FCT Health and Human Services Secretariat, Dr. Kawu Mohammed, disclosed that the patient has been swiftly moved to the University of Abuja Teaching Hospital, Gwagwalada, for proper management.
It was that somebody has similar symptoms of cough, sneezing, upper respiratory infection, some difficulty in breathing. So we sent our team earlier, who now took samples, and the sample came positive.
And in line with social restriction orders imposed by governments at all levels to enable containment of COVID-19, the Inspector General of Police, Mohammed Adamu, while enjoining citizens to voluntarily adhere to the orders, directs all zonal assistant inspectors general of police and commissioners of police nationwide to ensure compliance within their areas of jurisdiction. In a statement by Force Public Relations Officer DCP Frank Mba, the IGP advises officers to observe personal safety measures and further directs the zonal AIGs and command CPs to ensure that cases of unnecessary arrest and detention of suspects are not condoned. The International Press Center, IPC, Lagos, Nigeria, has called on media proprietors, both private and government, to provide journalists covering the COVID-19 health crisis in Nigeria with necessary protection gadgets and medications where required. A statement by Communications Officer Olutoyin Ayoade indicates that journalists are among professionals who are always on duty during crisis situations as is ongoing, and their safety should be accorded very high priority. The statement adds that journalists covering COVID-19 also deserve to be placed on a special insurance package, while urging journalists and other media professionals to exercise professional restraint and ensure that all supposed breaking stories on COVID-19 are fact-checked to mitigate the spread of false or misleading information. Only a few days back, the Lagos State government pronounced a ban on public gatherings exceeding 50 persons. The figure was further reduced to 20. Our correspondent reports on some level of compliance, especially by churches, on the first Sunday after the ban.
The Archbishop, Most Reverend Dr. Alfred Adewale Martins, issued a directive that all public masses should be suspended for now. So in all Catholic churches today, no public masses were celebrated.
Still on COVID-19, Primate of the Church of Nigeria Anglican Communion is advocating greater attention on rural areas to avoid an escalation. The Primate, Most Reverend Nicholas Oko, gave the advice in Abuja at a service to commemorate his retirement.
While the government is doing everything in the urban centers to monitor what's going on, efforts should be made by the Ministry of Health to ensure that the rural areas are well policed and looked after to avoid an outbreak in the rural areas.
Daura Emirate in Katsina State has suspended Islamia and Quranic schools session across the emirate. Emir of Daura Alhaji Umar Farooq Umar announced the decision during a prayer session held on coronavirus in his palace.
The Emir actually told all these people he gathered in his palace is how to avoid or how to protect ourselves from the scourge of COVID-19.
That's the news for now. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Kingsley and Kieran after this break. Good morning.
My name's Mr. Muftau Abiodun Balogun. We started this business 4 years ago, and this is the production outlet where we do about 4,000 to 5,000 birds per day. With the closure of the border recently, we've been experiencing massive surge in demand. Our sales per day now is going to be between 15 to 20,000 birds. We needed to expand all avenues because of the multiplier effect it's creating. And the most interesting thing about this closure is that many of my farmers today are farmers we recruited recently, and they are young graduates. What the government is doing will lead us right. And I can tell you, if the government sustain this thing, sky will not even be our limit.
Breakfast your day. Every day.
Nestle. Good food, good life.
No perfect family may be under threat by germs. Germs can cause infectious diseases like diarrhea, typhoid, and flu. These infectious diseases are amongst the biggest killers of adults and children. In Nigeria, tens of thousands of children under the age of 5 have died due to diarrhea caused by germs. These illness-causing germs are everywhere. Dirty surfaces, on cuts and wounds, on your clothes, in unclean bathing water. To protect your family from germs, use the power of Dettol's 1 capsule. For surface cleaning, for first aid, for your laundry, in your bathing water, and to protect your family from up to 100 illness-causing germs.
Introducing Dettol with aloe vera. Soothing aloe vera with the power of Dettol, which is soft on skin and hard on germs. Be Dettol Sure.
City Hot. Let's go, guys.
Babe.
Yeah.
Would you please turn on your hotspot?
Okay, there you go. My lady, play this ball. Hey, hold this guy down.
Password, please.
0808.
Baby girl, you are 1 in a million. Babe.
Yeah.
You have a message.
From what? Do maybe. Read it out now. Read it out to my ears.
Nobody. Free your mind with Airtel Smart Talk and enjoy calls to all networks at a flat rate of 11 kobo per second. Dial *315# to join.
Fine girl. Can I have your phone, man?
Airtel, the smartphone network.
This is Good Morning Nigeria on NTA Network Service. And of course, we have as our next engagement, business news.
Hello and good morning. One sector in Nigeria where importation used to be high is the automotive industry. Until recently, when the Nigerian Automotive Design and Development Council interfaced with indigenous car manufacturers to build and assemble cars here in Nigeria. This reduces importation and creates jobs.
For example, in the automotive sector, currently in Nigeria, we have close to 5,000 people already employed directly. These are people working in the factories. By extension, in the automotive sector, for every 1 job you have in a factory, you have at least 10 jobs down the value chain.
A development professional tells us the gains inherent in the functional automotive industry and how empty an import-dependent economy becomes with time.
Be it cars that they are making that are coming cheap, a lot of young people can actually get into commercial transportation. Be it cars that they are making and that people who are in the public or civil service can be able to buy this at a cheaper rate. It makes the movement of goods and services a lot easier. And of course, it creates jobs.
And finally, the week's activity on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange opens today. As always, NTA Business News will bring you closing figures subsequently. My name is Kolo Muhammad. Good Morning Nigeria continues right after now. Good to have you along.
Many thanks, Kolo Muhammad, for the business package. Next is newspaper review.
And our newspaper reviewer, Bayo Altayabi, is unavoidably absent this morning, and so we'll be taking the review by ourselves. And let's begin with the Blueprint newspaper. And on the right-hand side of the Blueprint nameplate, we have, "We are not devaluating Naira," says CBN. The story is on page 33. And below that, "Businesses explore measures to reduce COVID-19 impact." It's on page 34. Below the nameplate, "Coronavirus, oil price slump threaten FIRS 8.5 trillion revenue target." And now, Ondo rainstorm renders over 400 homeless. That story is on page 13. And that of coronavirus is on page 6. Now, the lead story is still on coronavirus. Says Nigeria records 30 cases, 300,000 affected globally. With 5 riders to that, 800 evade quarantine nationwide. Lagos, Kwara order workers to stay at home. Ogun Task Force disperses deviant worshippers. PDP churches flout government order in Delta. SERAP wants funding tracked and monitored. The story is on page 24. And now below the photo story on the Blueprint newspaper, we have NNPC rakes in 5.28 billion naira in December 2019 trading surplus. That's page 34 is where you have the full details of the story. Now, 81 new Lassa fever cases recorded in Ebonyi State. It's from officials. It's on page 8. Alleged abuses, reps panel to revisit Akintarenwa's tenure as at NIIA. It's on page 5. Kidnapped UCTH staff regains freedom in Calabar. It's on page 18. Nabena chasing shadows. I remain APC spokesman. Issa Onelu. It's on page 5.
Okay, let's also take a look at the front page of the Punch newspaper, and we'll take the stories on the COVID-19, which is the lead for the paper. This figure is a bit different. It says COVID-19 cases hit 31. Lagos and Kwara declare workers' holiday. The details of the stories on pages 2 and 7. But there are a number of writers there. It says Ogun fumes as Oyedepo ignores mass gathering restriction and holds service. Atiku's son tests positive, and Spain loses 394 in 24 hours. German Chancellor isolates. That's self-isolation. Kieran, this story on the number, up until last night, the NCDC was reporting 30 cases. Yes. And in our bulletin a while ago, it was also 30 cases. So we're not sure how the Punch came about 31 cases. Because even if you took a tally of the figures they are reporting at page 2 of the paper, the tally gives you 30 rather than 31 cases. Now you see the photographs there on the front page from various worship locations in and around the country. One is at Living Faith Church at Ota, and then the Redeemed Christian Church of God, Jabi in Abuja, and then the Cathedral Church of Christ in Marina, which is, of course, virtually empty. And then you can see the social distancing in terms of the arrangement of the chairs at the Redeemed Christian Church of God in Jabi in Abuja. Now, below that, let's take the following headlines. Police shot academy, order lecturers and students to vacate campus. That's page 10. I went into kidnapping to raise money for business. That's according to a suspect. And NSCDC arrests 4 for exam malpractices in Nasarawa. No trader will be denied new markets allocation. El-Rufai, that's page 24. Bride collapses as groom leaves church during wedding vows. That's on pages 4 and 5. Suspected herdsmen kill one, abduct 2 Benue women, pages 4 and 5. And then back on top of the paper, above the nameplate of the Punch, says questionable cargoes boost manufactured exports by 909 billion naira. Nigeria consumed 2.64 trillion naira petrol in 13 months. That's according to the NNPC. And CAC rejects Operation Shege Kafasa registration request. That's page 42. Mechanized agric begins in 632 local governments in September. That's according to the federal government. 3 billion naira scam. Federal government arraigns ex-head of service, Ayoita, and 8 others today. Ex-APC spokesman Nabena declares self-publicity secretary. So, Kirian, these are
I'm more concerned about church service yesterday, adherence to precautionary measures by government. And some churches did not adhere to that. And that is very dangerous because that's what happened in South Korea. In fact, in South Korea's case, the pastor in charge had to apologize to the nation because most of his members of his congregation all caught coronavirus, and that escalated corona in South Korea. From that church gathering, it spread to other parts of that country. And doing same in Nigeria would be a very big, bad omen, for us in the quest to manage this deadly pandemic.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I didn't see any major challenge in adhering to the directives issued by government officials. I mean, this is not a question of challenging anybody's faith. It's just a question of saying, look, for public health consideration, reduce the level of interaction that people would have, because the coronavirus is not written on the face of any individual, and the symptoms might take a while to manifest, and especially as we still have at this moment very low level of community or so-called local transmission of the virus. Most of the cases have come from outside, so why don't you minimize it? Because the figures grow exponentially, as we have seen. I mean, over the weekend, you saw this report now saying Spain lost almost 400 persons in 24 hours.
Italy lost over 700 in
almost
24 hours.
Almost 800. And anybody that saw the visuals of what played out in Italy will recognize just how serious this is. In the region of Lombardy, where most of the fatalities occurred, at some point, they didn't have ambulances to be conveying the dead bodies. They had to be using military trucks.
They stopped counting at a point.
That's right.
Because it was unnecessary to count the number at that time. And even the Prime Minister of Italy had said, look, that we are overwhelmed.
Absolutely.
To an extent where they are now asking for assistance. Russia is there now to provide assistance to Italy because, of course, the country is totally overwhelmed. We don't want that kind of situation in Nigeria, and that's why we are hammering on this. We have to avoid the avoidables. We have to, hearken to the instructions given by the, medical officials, because this is a strain that is so strange to the world that even America is seriously battling. They have lost nearly 300 persons have been lost in America, to coronavirus. It's such a country with diverse, medical capacities and what have you.
So what happens? I mean, but this is the way it plays out. That look, okay, we have had 2 cases that have been successfully treated, and those 2 cases have been discharged. So the active cases now will be 28 out of the 30 positive results that we have seen. But here we are, those 2 cases that were treated and the 28 that are undergoing treatment. Can you imagine if there was a surge of patients? How much bed space are you going to have? How many medical personnel are you going to have? In Italy, some of the medical personnel were saying that they had only been able to go on off one day in 6 weeks. And that's why, this entire infrastructure and personnel, they are all overwhelmed, and so the system is just collapsing.
And in Nigeria here, we don't even have what they refer to now as PPE. That is a personal protective equipment. That this health personnel will need. If anything, happens, if it escalates, which of course we don't pray for.
Yeah,
now look at another story.
Kirian, just that story. Just hang on. As you are talking about this, Kirian. there was a statement that, I mean, a part of what we are saying now, I picked this up over the weekend from one of the international networks. And I think that captures the advisory by government and public health officials. They say, look, do nothing so that nothing happens. In other words, refrain and restrain yourself from public gatherings so that nothing, in terms of the catastrophe, it doesn't happen.
Exactly. See, 800 evade quarantine nationwide. How will somebody evade quarantine? You know, when perhaps you just came into Nigeria from infested country. So why don't submit yourself? You know, I mean, the article, as we said, I actually read on the official Twitter handle of his father, who first of all told Nigerians that his son has tested positive, which is the right attitude to this.
Precisely.
You don't have nothing to hide. This is a pandemic; it can get to anybody.
I mean, the German Chancellor doesn't have it, but her physician, who gave her a vaccination, has it. So she's going into self-isolation. Exactly. The Canadian Prime Minister doesn't have it, but his wife has it, and then both of them are in self-isolation for a 14-day period. Just abide by this simple restriction, and it will be well for all of us. Otherwise, we'll be faced with some very challenging issues.
And look at this other writer to this story. It's a PDP churches flout government order in data, which means they are still engaged in bringing people together.
Precisely, and it's unhelpful. It's unhelpful. Kira, that's a human interest story. I already read it in the online papers at the weekend. It's there at the foot of the front page of the Punch. It says, "Bride collapses as groom leaves church during wedding vows." This took place in Jos, Plateau State capital. If you can see that story again, unfortunately they have used the photograph of the Plateau State governor to illustrate it. It doesn't concern the Plateau State governor, His Excellency Simon Lalong. The gentleman, and the lady, of course, were to exchange their wedding vows in church on Saturday. And at the appropriate time, the priest asked, do you the typical question.
Do you take and the guy said no.
He said no. I said, do you understand what I've just said? He said, yes, I understand the English language, and my response is no. Now, it turns out that, they had dated for about 12 years or so, and that the groom said he made up his mind 10 years ago to punish the lady on this particular occasion. And then you are asking yourself, what kind of animosity would you have harbored for a decade, and then on the crucial day, you decided to act this out?
And of course, his best man actually told the news agency of Nigeria that this guy has always confided in him.
Yes.
But he was so surprised that he never told him anything of this nature. And he was also saying that something may have happened, that he cannot believe his friend could do this. Otherwise, how on earth can he just say that and just bolted away like that with speed and left, in his car and all that, and left the lady there? Something must be behind it, according to him. Perhaps, in Nigeria, when something happens, we say, look, there's a
home trouble.
Home trouble.
But I think that, it requires a great deal of examination and consideration. What is the state of the mental health
of the man?
Yes, of the groom. What would have triggered this in the first instance? Exactly. Where does he work? What does he do for a living? And assuming worst case scenario, the bride herself, she should say, look, I'm lucky. Suppose you had gone ahead with all the vows, and then one day you woke up and the gentleman snapped.
Exactly. Okay, now to editorial.
That's right.
We have a COVID-19, CBN's intervention et al. This about intervention based on the fact that coronavirus has affected all the fabric of society, business, and what have you. He said, in an apparent proactive move to ameliorate the likely impact of the ravaging global coronavirus, the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, unveiled a 6-point palliative to check the impact of the virus on the Nigerian economy. And of course, what the editorial is talking about or harping on is actually on a cautionary note, asking Nigerians to avoid panic measures following the outbreak of the virus, and of course to have adequate information and act in accordance with what is perceptibly a standard response to the virus. Every country is doing that. You know, America started doing that with $1 trillion, and more votes are taking place in the Congress to see how they can also, help different sectors of the economy. Aviation is there. Just aviation in America has collapsed, almost collapsed.
That's right. That's right. I mean, with effect from today, there will be no international flights into or out of Nigeria on account of the measures. But the financial injection by the CBN, these are all welcome developments, even though, of course, we're also seeing movements in terms of the exchange rate of the Naira. Businesses would need a huge injection of capital for them to reawaken from their slumber once the current storm of the pandemic passes. Okay, I think that's very important. But I just wanted to point out, it's often a common mistake. If you take a look at the headline of that editorial again, let's see that again on the screen. It says COVID-19 CBN's intervention et al. That et al is wrong.
It's wrong, yeah.
Et al is wrong. Et al is used for human beings.
Exactly.
When you are writing your footnotes, X, Y, Z, it should be etc. That's the word should have been there. Yeah. Et al, that's the full thing, full rendering of what they should.
By the way, this paper is Al Jazeera.
Al Jazeera. Yeah. Okay, Kieran, that does it for us on the review segment. And we're taking a short break now. When we return, we shall be asking what role there is, if any, for alternative medicine in the coronavirus pandemic.
We'll be able to unite, irrespective of tribe, religion, and culture. So we keep preaching on love. That is the only binding force. Let us love ourselves, irrespective of where the person comes from.
You are about to witness the commencement of the most stimulating and compelling contest on television. This contest is only for the strong, the intelligent, and the talented. Get ready for the Unity Challenge reality TV show. Coming soon.
Your perfect family may be under threat by germs. Germs can cause infectious diseases like diarrhea, typhoid, and flu. These infectious diseases are amongst the biggest killers of adults and children. In Nigeria, tens of thousands of children under the age of 5 have died due to diarrhea caused by germs. These illness-causing germs are everywhere. Dirty surfaces, on cuts and wounds, on your clothes, in unclean bathing water. To protect your family from germs, use the power of Dettol's 1 capsule. For surface cleaning, for first aid, for your laundry, in your bathing water, and to protect your family from up to 100 illness-causing germs.
Introducing Dettol with aloe vera. Soothing aloe vera, the power of Dettol, which is soft on skin and hard on germs. Be Dettol Sure.
Engineering skills and technology define the quality of television transmission output. Training and retraining of appropriate personnel on the management of modern equipment is therefore a key competition strategy in the dynamic television industry. NTA TV College, Jos, invites relevant desk officers to special engineering courses as follows. 1-week course on audio engineering, operations and maintenance. Date 20th to 24th April 2020. 1-week intensive course on electrical power, earthing, lighting, uninterrupted power supply UPS, inverter and solar system. Date 1st to 5th June 2020. 1-week intensive course on studio broadcast equipment and outside broadcast operation. Date 15th to 19th June 2020. 1-week course on new technologies, optical fiber, IP technologies, automation storage and wireless technology. Date 10th to 14th August 2020. The venue for all courses is NTA Television College, near Old Government House, Rayfield, Jos. Course fee 40,000 Naira per participant, accommodation inclusive. For more inquiries, please call 0803-314-4383 or 0806-980-9807. NTA TV College, Jos, training you to be the best you want to be.
Helen!
Hey, where's your mom?
Today is her toilet day.
What?
Helen!
Toilet day?
Tomorrow you're hosting a party and it's a matter of my reputation.
Even if you spend your entire day cleaning with all this, it still won't be party ready.
Impossible!
Challenge? New Ticker Half X10X. Even if you use this solution 10 times, it won't give you the same cleaning like Harpic. Its new thicker formulation sticks to the bowl better, removes old stains, and gives you a sparkling clean toilet.
Wow!
New Harpic 10X
Gives me the freedom from toilet day.
New Harpic 10X for 10 times better cleaning.
When I was pregnant, I worried you would look like your dad. But look at you. After 6 months, I worried about the right foods to give you. Now you've grown so much, but doctor says anemia can affect your growth and slow your learning.
Mom is right. 7 out of 10 kids in Nigeria suffer from iron deficiency, which can cause anemia. 1 meal of Cerelac Junior with Iron Plus provides 50% of your child's daily iron needs to support proper growth and learning.
That's reassuring. Cerelac Junior with Iron Plus. It's all good, Mom.
All right, this is a Good Morning Nigeria, and we're of course moving into the nitty-gritty of our program today. Now, the role of alternative medicine in combating the ravaging coronavirus is the focus of our discussion today. And our correspondent Victor Azo went to the streets to seek the opinion of Nigerians on the issue, and here is what he brought back.
Going by the kind of things we've been reading in the social media and some of the things that we know as Africans, yes, if Nigerians are out there, I mean outside of Nigeria doing exploits, I mean why can't Nigerians within here do the same? So I think yes, there are herbs, there are seeds that we can use here locally to do those things.
I don't know if there is any research about that for now, but I think before now, from what I heard, it's just like kata or whatever, I don't know the kind of name they gave it. If it's to be the kind of kata sneezing we have in those days, where there are better ways of treating those ones, when you take enough pepper soup with pepper enough, the kata will find its way. But that of the coronavirus, I don't think I have an idea about that.
We can find cure to it, but COVID-19, the way it is, it's coming like a wildfire now. It's not something that we solely rely on traditional medicine, because traditional medicine you cannot, there is no certainty of accuracy of it.
There is this Ozeza. There is Oda. I don't know the names in English language, because I'm not aware that they have those. Then there is Nchau. You know what Nchau is? This thing they call scent leaf. Nchau. I've used it as a person, and I was healed of sinusitis. Somebody just asked me to use it, that there is no kind of nasal congestion, infection that it does not heal.
All right, a cross-section of Nigerians there expressing their views on the potential role of alternative medicine in the current coronavirus pandemic. We have with us here 5 guests to discuss the issue in further detail. First, let's welcome pharmacist Zainab Sharif Ujudud. She is Director and Head of Department Traditional, Complementary and Alternative Medicine of the Federal Ministry of Health. Pharmacist Zainab, pleasure to have you with us on Good Morning.
I'm glad to be here.
Okay. Also here with us in the studios is Dr. John Tor Agbedie. He is the General Secretary, Integrative Medicine, West Africa. Dr. Tor Agbedie, pleasure to have you with us on the program.
My pleasure.
And we also have with us Professor Ernest Ugo. Now, Professor Ernest Ugo is a professor of homeopathic medicine, which is said to be a pseudo-scientific system of alternative medicine. Well, he's here, and for those who are old enough, you remember him in the 1980s, he was in the news a great deal of time. Kirian, of course, you need to interact with him also.
The first test tube baby in Nigeria that he did, though controversial afterwards, but of course it was a medical process that he was able to attain at that point in time. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
All right. We also have Professor Kenneth Achang Yongabi. Professor Yongabi is a professor of public health, infectiology, and phytobiotechnology, Faculty of Health Science, Imo State University, Owerri. He's also a consultant to the World Health Organization on health literacy in youth and adolescents in Africa. Bankau Traditional Medicine and Clinics, Kefi in Nasarawa State. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you very much.
More, the virus has been ravaging the world once it leapt out of China and the rest of the world began to feel the heat. Most of what we've been hearing been relating to protective personal gear, for health personnel treatment, or looking for vaccine, the search for a vaccine, or the search for an appropriate cure. WHO, of course, has been giving its regular briefings on all of this. We hear that medical personnel are all overstretched, and the kind of medical personnel they're talking about here, of course, relate to the orthodox medical personnel. But in all of this, we also keep hearing that it is a case where your immune system is also dealt with. But, how to respond to that aspect of it is not what we have heard a great deal about in this conversation around the coronavirus and what needs to be done or what else can be done in aid of the various measures and steps that have been taken to contain the pandemic. That's why we have assembled our guests this morning. But it will be useful to first have their own understanding or appreciation of what the pandemic is all about and what probably is amiss. Let's begin with our regular guest on Good Morning Nigeria, Pharmacist Zainab, who is a director of the Federal Ministry of Health.
Thank you for inviting us, believing in us as experts in another field to be able to educate the populace. But to kickstart this discussion, it's important to recognize that WHO recognizes 3 healthcare systems. What do I mean by that? The orthodox allopathic medicine, which we all know and agree about. It has also recognized traditional medicine because it realized that traditional medicine is part of your own healing mechanisms. And bearing in mind that, cognizant of the fact that remedies that have been used for over 200 years by a community, by a country, should be considered. Having said that about traditional medicine, complementary medicine. Viewers should understand what is complementary medicine, because you say alternative medicine. You must always say traditional, complementary, and alternative medicine. Complementary medicine means any kind of health intervention that is neither orthodox nor traditional. So you pack those groups and call them complementary medicine. Furthermore, let's give a brief clarification. Complementary medicine, you have heard of acupuncture, is a complementary medicine. It comes indigenous from China to any other part of the country. It becomes complementary. My traditional medicine for Nigeria goes to another country, it becomes complementary medicine. So let's look at some few examples so that there will be a clearer picture of this discussion. Vitamin therapy is a complementary medicine. Nutritional therapy is a complementary medicine. Aromatherapy is a complementary medicine. Hydrotherapy is a complementary medicine. Just to mention some few, there are so many. Even massage is a complementary medicine. So many that have either health benefits. Let me cue in to define that. WHO says health, we all believe, complete state of physical, mental, social, spiritual well-being. Not merely the absence of diseases. What do I mean? We are faced with that. Physically, because of the virus, less physical contacts. Spiritually, we need to go to God and ask Him He is the omniscience. Give us a remedy for our people. You see, the big are falling. Everybody is confused. God is telling you that I am in charge. Look for me and I'll provide the remedy for you. Then social, less social activities. Mental, there seems to be panicking, there seems to be anxiety. All this encompassing. Let's have a role for traditional and complementary medicine. We are not here to say we have a cure. We don't have a cure. We have interventions that are positive that will help our people. I want our people to be able to say affordability. We will now talk about cost effectiveness and economic benefits. This is all encompassing in the aspect of what we want to discuss.
Yeah, thank you indeed for laying that formidable foundation for this conversation coming from your point of view. Actually, the program, as Kingsley stated earlier on, is on the role of traditional medicine. What if it's alternative or complementary, as the case may be? What is important here is that the world is witnessing a strain that is very strange to the globe. As a matter of fact, WHO, I'm not sure it has done enough. Perhaps they briefed the world on updating the world and all of that, but then it has not actually come up with something, a medical therapy, that has, responded to this pandemic. As a matter of fact, China did something I'm not sure the entire world has been able to appreciate, and one has to ask questions to China, what they did, whether they relied on orthodox or whether they had a complementary, medication. Let me go to Adamu Bunkao, the holistic medicine expert and chief consultant of Bunkao Traditional Medicine. Tell us what you know about this strange strain that the world is witnessing at the moment.
Thank you very much. I think if I will speak the way I'm supposed to speak, it is something that maybe is new. That is why in our profession, what we believe is that you always have to make sure that you know how to keep your system intact. Because if anything happens, it will be able to defend itself. But when something new happens, so we have to lose many lives before we discover how to cure it, or how to teach people to avoid the having the diseases. So if we give alternative traditional medicine the field, I think maybe they have something to offer. But in our way of offering something, we always believe in preventive measures. So when your system is intact, you give your system what it wants, anything happen, the system must take responsibility to defend itself. But when something happens in our own way, is the same thing we are going to tell people that, look, you have to start eating something that will boost your immune and will rebuild your system. More especially natural things, because when you are using natural things, so your system must be protected, because you give the system what it wants. So I think that is what I have to say about this thing.
Okay, thank you very much, Adamu Ahmad. We'll return to you in the course of the conversation. Let's bring in now Professor Kenneth Yongabi, who is a professor of public health, infectiology, and phytobiotechnology. Professor Yongabi, tell us, what do you think of coronavirus, and what is there any missing aspect of it in terms of the global response to this obviously strange microorganism?
Yeah, thank you for giving me the floor to make a few comments about this. Now, it's very interesting that if you look at what scientists have done in the past, coronaviruses as well as other viruses have been in existence. That's the first thing I would like to submit here. You find them in both domestic as well as wild animals. So it's been there. Now, if you look at this strain, I just read a paper in 2003 where they talked about this possible, pandemic of coronavirus, which we are facing today. And this, author actually described, possible jumping of, pathogens from species. That means from animals to humans, which is zoonotic. Now, but in this particular study, what was their focus? I'm taking this study to be able to pitch, my opinion about what is happening today. And in this study, what they did was to be able to analyze different compounds against viruses. And one of such viruses was what? Coronaviruses. And they actually come up with different extracts from medicinal plants, inhibiting single-stranded positive sense ribonucleic acid coronaviruses. Okay? Now, I will come to that. Yes. Now, the present coronavirus, pandemic that we have today, apparently, that's the structure. It's single-stranded, positive, ribonucleic, that's the RNA, that's the genetic material because it's being classified in that sense. Now, this study actually went into inhibit, the compounds that they found actually went into inhibit this, ribonucleic acid, which is coronavirus as well. Now, this study exists in literature. We haven't made allusion to this study as yet. So they have been, I'm also trying to address this issue with respect to the topic that we are here on this morning. Now, they realize that there is a 3C protein, and they found compounds from plants that also inhibit, this 3C protein, what they call protease from coronavirus as well. This is a very authoritative study that exists in literature. Now, if you look at the current, strain which WHO has actually defined today, the COVID-19, which comes from where? It's when they talk about the strain, it's about unique genetic makeup which has not been found. But coronavirus strains exist. We have coronavirus severe acquired respiratory syndrome, that's SARS-CoV-2. Now, from COVID-2, they found a unique strain or gene that makes up what WHO calls today as COVID-19. Okay? Now, there have been studies in the past in different dimensions looking at chikungunya, effect of different plant extracts or different forms of therapies on chikungunya, West Nile fever, Lassa fever virus as well as dengue fever as well, viruses. So they have done these studies, and it's actually in existence in literature. So what I see today is that the issue of emerging and re-emerging infectious diseases would not stop. It will be. Tomorrow it may be something else if we succeed with this coach. You've heard of Zika. Zika came in South America. We're no longer talking about Zika. It was a viral infection. Zika, sorry. Yeah, thanks for that. Zika. So it's no longer an issue. We have Lassa fever today in parts. We had Ebola as well. Now, again, permit me to use this example. Now, when the Ebola outbreak came up, more than 40 years ago, Ebola was discovered in River Congo, in the Zaire River. And the name Ebola doesn't really exist in virology. I beg to say this. It doesn't exist because Ebola is the name of a river in the Zaire, Congo. The virus is what? Filiviridae. Now, when that happened, the Western society, scientists from the West came and picked, what was happening. And they went back to Belgium. And at that time, Professor Peter Piot was actually at the center. He was doing postdoc, I think, at that time. He worked on that. And then they came up with, a Filiviridae, that's virus. And then they just decided to call it Ebola. The indigenous people there actually named it Ebola. And that's Ebola hemorrhagic fever. They found a very strange fever. And they were trying to manage it in their own way. All right? And at the end of the day, there was this disconnect because of, the approach. And they forgot the indigenous knowledge of how that was going to be managed in that particular society. And 40 years down the lane, we're still talking about Ebola. And when Ebola came, when the outbreak came up, what happened? Nigerians did a very, very good job. Nigerian scientists did a very, very good job in trying to contain Ebola. But incidentally, the Ebola issue is still not out of, we still have Ebola, It's not an issue right now, but it's still there, okay? Now, there was a Nigerian scientist in literature in 1995 who published a very authoritative paper on the use of Garcinia cola extracts to inhibit Ebola virus. He published that looking at plant extracts against viral infections at that time. But he never foresee an outbreak today. But when the outbreak came, they never revisited that particular study. So what we are talking in this particular context is that there's a need to look back and find out what are the antiviral substances that have been existed in literature for us to pitch ourselves and take our lesson to them.
Thank you indeed for bringing up that the historical background of viruses, not just the corona we're talking about. And I've also read in one literature about coronavirus written over 40 years ago as well. I was shocked, what I saw, which means that this virus has been in existence, but perhaps it has not been transmitted from animal to humans. And you said something that is very important, unique genetic makeup of this very strain. I want to bring in Professor here. Tell us, you have this background of hemopathic pharmacology. Now, looking at the unique genetic makeup of this strain, what do you understand by that? And what could be the possible approach, using alternative or complementary medicine to approach it?
Thank you very much. Well, as my colleague said, if you read our Materia Medica is the book of our pharmacology and our pharmacopoeia, you will realize that this issue of corona had been there, including other viruses. And the founder of homeopathy, Professor Hahnemann, did some provings on some remedies that can inhibit the viruses. In fact, in 1894, there was an epidemic in Europe, and the statistical report showed that those treated with alternative medicine, especially homeopathic medicines, had a mortality rate of 9%. And those treated with allopathic medicine, that's the orthodox medicine, had a mortality rate of 54.9%. And in 1930, there was a cholera epidemic in London also. And the alternative medicine, including what we have now renamed complementary medicine, recorded just about 5% of mortality rate, while the allopathic medicine recorded 74%. So this particular strain can also be handled with alternative medicine. We have what we call nosodes. We have diphterinum, I'm sorry, these are technical terminologies, but we have diphterinum, influenzinum, we have bacillinum. All these are extracts from the pathogens, and they are potentized and succursed and prepared in the homeopathic way and used to boost the body immunity. So what I think we can do now is not to make any claims of any cure, but to help to sensitize our people and then advise them to take these natural remedies, including homeopathic remedies, that can help to build their body immunity to be able to fight the virus. So that's the point I'm making now.
Yeah, Professor Enostugo, thank you very much. Let's bring in Dr. John Tor Agbidie, who is the General Secretary of Integrative Medicine, West Africa. Let's get your opening shot on this pandemic.
Well, thank you very much, Kingsley. First of all, I would like to clarify, a point. Actually, what we do is known as integrative medicine. Integrative medicine is that component of medicine that actually combines both the complementary, the alternative, as well as orthodox, medicine. And with this, you see that integrative medicine is actually practiced by medically trained and qualified, doctors. So, but let me go straight to the point that we're really here to discuss, that is COVID-19. A lot of emphasis has been laid on precautionary measures, which we've been told avoid, social, distancing, and then, others. But a component that to us has actually been neglected is that of the ability of the immune system to really drive and protect us. I give a very graphic, analogy here. It's just like you have a city, and then you have your police, you have your army, you have your air force. However, you've not these various arms of armed forces are capable of protecting you, but you've neglected and have not equipped them. Now the enemy comes, he will just overrun your own city, and that's what we mean by the defense against COVID-19 or any other diseases, including things like SARS, which we actually talk about. So on this effect, how do we actually build our immune system so that when we are challenged, we'll be able to stand against any challenge that comes in, for example, COVID? Well, there are several ways. One of the ways, the things that actually suppresses the immune system is stress. So we should avoid, stress. I would not like to go into details with the, the production of certain hormones in the body, cortisol, to be specific, under stress, that suppresses and compromises, the immune system. Then also let's talk about, diet. The type of diet we take. Food is really very important. Let me use sugar here as a typical example. Certain amount of sugar, and as we can find in some of the drinks, contain up to 9 grams of sugar. Sugar suppresses the immune system. How does that do that? If you take, for example, 9 grams of sugar, is able to reduce what we call the leukocytic index. This is the ability of the white blood cells to actually fight disease from 16.1 to 1.9 for a period of 4 hours. That amount of sugar, that is the 9 grams of sugar, is capable of also lowering the immune system by 50% for 4 hours.
Can you reduce that 9 grams into cubes so that our viewers will pick it up? I don't know, they will have a sense of it. 9 grams, is it 1 cube,
Yes.
You can say just 1 cube.
Well,
on the average.
Depending.
On the
Honestly,
average, yes.
You have different manufacturers. Yes. So let's just put it, that way. Different manufacturers, but it could be up to 6 cubes. It could be 9 cubes. But what is your own source? So it is really very important.
Alternatively, I'm sorry to jump in here. Alternatively, for those who are worried about this in terms of the conversion, get your packet of sugar. You will see the size or the weight of it,
exactly,
and then you divide it by the number of cubes, plus maybe the weight of the carton or the packet, and you get a sense of that. All right, continue.
Thank you very much. So now I've talked about then other ways which you can enhance your own. the immune system. Let me come to the diet. Food is really very important. Like the kind of oil, the cooking oil that you are using. These days we advocate that people should use organic olive oil. All those ones may be difficult for us, but our red palm oil should be brought back. It is very good because there is that direct correlation with the type of oil that you eat that affects, the cell membrane. Then you have things like, there has been a lot of fear that has been injected into this. There is a field of science known as psychoneuroimmunology that directly tells you that there is that correlation between fear and stress and the immune system. But what is happening currently is capable of suppressing our immune system because we're living in fear.
We took on fear and panic last Friday.
I wouldn't use the word confused, but when it comes to trying to enhance your immune, how do you understand how it works? I mean, it's inside your chemistry, and what I know biologically speaking is that the white corpuscles is very important to the system, and if it's attacked, you are like finished as a person, right? But see, low sugar is also a problem. I hear that people even die instantly when you have that. So how does one have the measure to know what your body needs? Because we're not all medically inclined. So how do you know? Well, I would say that look, God has to come in here at a point, understandably, honestly. Now. It has to come in here, honestly.
But
let me ask you,
before you bring, before we go, spiritual is part of the. But if you are going to worship, you shouldn't be more than 50 in number, as the government has directed. Maybe I don't know. Okay, we're talking about the confusion. Maybe Dr. Theo needs to just take it off again, because he graphically described the body defenses, and then gave the analogy to the defense of a city by the armed forces, and then talked about those things that can attack a person's immune system. Yes. You want to go over them again? Talk about stress, sugar consumption.
Yeah, you have you have food, then you have exercise. Exercise is clearly very important. Then you talk about sleep deprivation. The lack of sleep also suppresses our immune system. Why is it important? There are particular hours. They talk about adequate number of hours that we should have in a day. We're supposed to have at least 6 to 8 hours. And what do I mean by this 6 to 8 hours? It shouldn't just be any 6 to 8 hours. It should be what we call quality hours. That is the best time to go to bed is from 10 o'clock to 6 a.m. If you don't sleep within this time, you are missing what we call the melatonin cycle. Melatonin is what we call, it is a hormone. It is known as hormone of, sleep. Also known in medical jargon as bioidentical hormone. That means that your body produces it. If you miss that hormone, the body is not able to detoxify properly. Then I can talk about detoxification, adequate and proper detoxification to stimulate your immune system.
Absolutely. Some persons take a siesta, what we call siesta, when we were in secondary school, in the afternoon. And invariably when you do that particular day, you cannot go to bed by 10. It's not going to come. The sleep is not going to come. Because you have taken some part of that sleep in the day. And, for us then, we were reading for WAEC and all that. I mean, if you take siesta, that means you read till about 3 a.m. or whatever.
Can I comment on that?
No, I will come back to you.
That is what we call a sleep hygiene. You are having a poor sleep hygiene if you don't sleep at the proper hours.
All right. Let me bring it to that.
Yes.
You are the director and head of the department, traditional, complementary, and alternative medicine. Now, since the outbreak of COVID-19, has there been any plan, that you have that will bring in orthodox and complementary medical persons to sit down and say, look, what can we do?
Yes.
Any kind of research, Have you done that?
Okay, that is why I assembled these experts here. That is part of my mandate. But I just want to, when we talk, I always like to understand what are the viewers thinking. What are they assimilating? What is the take home? Just like he said, the virus is there and the human being is there. You either kill the virus or the human being get ready for war in the sense of defense mechanism, like he has said, supporting your immune system. Let us briefly say, what is the immune system? What are the organs so that people have a picture? The main organs that control the immune system, you have the thymus gland and you have the bone marrow, in the sense that that is where the white blood cells are produced, whether we call them lymphocytes, whatever we want to call them. So that your thymus must be active and your bone marrow. Then there are other supportive organs. The lymph nodes, the spleen, the gallbladder, even the blood. These are experts in controlling the immune system. Having said that, as a medicinal plant expert, practically, what plants can I use to boost my immune system? Are there plants that we call antiviral properties that are safe? We often call them, in the aspect of our natural medicine, antimicrobial plants. But before I mention these plants, so that our viewers can take some of these plants, we are going to tell you how to use them to boost your immune system. Out there is a need for information. Kirian and Kingsley, I thought I would see a cup of tea here. I would have asked your people to boil the tea with ginger and cloves. These are some of our antiseptic plants, antiviral plants. Affordable, available, and health benefits. God does not want vacuum. Nature is there. Medicinal plants are God's remedial agents for his inflicted humanity. That is why I say religion and spiritual must be mentioned. We are all created by God. Before he created you, there was Garden of Eden. He gave you all those plants. So we are saying, what are these benefits? But more importantly, viewers, we need to loosen up. I want to use the word loosen up to simplify the process of detoxification like he has mentioned. Let's remove the toxins from our system. You had a bath coming in. You have bathed externally. But what have you done internally? That is where we talk about plants that can detoxify the system in recognizing the organs that are responsible for detoxification. What are the organs? We are breathing. The lungs removes the carbon dioxide. Lungs, respiratory systems is an organ of detoxification. The digestive system and the colon. You cannot have constipation and you say the toxins are there. That means infections can easily come in. So, detoxifying systems, the skin, the organ, the liver, the kidney, the GIT, and of course, the respiratory system.
What is GIT? Is that a bank?
Gastrointestinal system, the digestive system. Each of these systems, they have their foods. God gave medicinal plants for each of these systems. For the digestive system, there are foods I would recommend. I call it digestive system and the colon. Flush out. What are the plants that you can take to flush out? Common laxatives. In the most pharmacy shops, there is senna. Senna is a leaf. It's a laxative that can flush the feces. You are losing up. You are strengthening the immune system. Just to give an example. The circulatory system, they need to breathe well. We have so many plants around us. The Eucalyptus globulus. Eucalyptus tree is all over. It contains an essential oil. That is the aspect of aromatherapy. The essential oil in eucalyptus has antiseptic properties.
Madam, we understand it quite clearly.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm not cutting you short, but you will continue. We are looking at treatment of COVID, applying some plants.
That is what I'm telling you.
Because we were talking about preventive and
no, I said boosting the immune system.
Exactly.
There are various ways to boost the immune system. Yes, you must first clean yourself internally. The process of detoxification is already boosting the immune system. Then before I talk about the immune system proper, are there plants that are known that we call them immune supportive plants? Yes, there are. Research and science shows that these plants act in 3 different ways to boost the immune system. They call them deep immune activators. They call them modulators. They have a process of entering the tissue to support the immune system. In all of these procedures, alum sativa and alum cepa is mentioned. What is alum sativa? Garlic and onion is mentioned. We have onion. Take more of onions in your foods. You could have onion soup.
Is it raw onions?
Or you can take, yes, you take salad, chop more of the onions. Combination of onion and tomatoes is a good quick win salad, just to do extra benefits. In 1918, there was an epidemic of influenza too. They said they went back to grandmother's remedies. What was the grandmother's remedies? They said take garlic. Everybody was garlic. Garlic became expensive. They were using it. The homes that took garlic, even children had cloves of garlic in their socks. They rubbed the garlic with olive oil, put them in the socks, and the children had garlic. Then I became to seek the Fulani man in the village. When you see a Fulani man carrying a baby, You see, he ties clove of garlic on the neck of his baby. What is the science? Garlic is hygroscopic. It has the ability to absorb water. That means related infections are this. So that confirms that epidemic where people who use garlic at the end of the epidemic, they had less casualties than those. So what are antiseptic plants that are there for us to use to support the immune system? I told you the deep immune modulators of plants and then the surface immune modulators of plants. They fight the resistance. They promote the activity of the white blood cells. When they do that, your immune system is strengthened. And what are these plants? I want to mention them scientifically because they are there. They are available. The kitchen spice rack. What is the kitchen spice rack? Hey, mothers, women, in your kitchen there are spices. What are those spices for? Research, scientific, he will tell you. Evidences show that most of our spices have antiviral properties. They boost the immune system. When the lady was saying, take more pepper soup, I said yes, because in the spices promote circulation, increase perspiration, the process of diaphoretism. So the kitchen spice rack, we have a lot of anise seeds down available. You see the young malam selling those spices. Anise seeds, fennel, cinnamon, garlic, ginger, just to mention a few. These are plants that are called antiseptic plants. They have antiviral properties and they support the immune system. They are part of our foods. Let's encourage our people.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Pharmacist Zainab. Let's go to the other guest, Professor Yongabi. I want to return to you. Earlier, you gave a historical narrative, as it were, of pre-existing studies on viruses, including coronavirus, and obviously now we are dealing with the new coronavirus or novel coronavirus disease of 19. I'm just wondering, what is it that happens in the world of medical scientific research such that oftentimes this pre-existing knowledge is neglected and everybody is foraging for new ways, new ideas? I mean, what happens? What is the missing link in all of that? That's one, and that's a fairly simple question for you to address. But in terms of what we generally call alternative medicine, what are the ideas that we can learn to fortify ourselves, against what is looming?
Yeah, let me. You've just used the word missing link, and I think this is very critical. I think at the spur of the moment we get confused and we disconnect from history. We are faced with COVID-19 today, and Africa, in a way, is in turmoil. If the kind of stories we're getting in Europe really befalls Africa, we're in a very deep, difficult situation. Let me try to take you back again to history. Today we're hearing of chloroquine being used to contain, Trump just mentioned about chloroquine. What is the origin of chloroquine? Chloroquine came from a South American plant in Peru, Cinchona officinalis. Yeah. And they isolated, and in 1634, to be precise, 1634, the wife of a Peruvian viceroy had a fever, and they got the barks of Cinchona officinalis, boiled it, and treated her fever. And they realized that the plant was what? Antipyretic. Now, they started using it. Now, in the 17th century, the Jesuit priest over there started also using it. Now, later on in that 17th century, I think, 1940s thereabout, if I'm not mistaken, no, 1934 to be precise, Bayer in Germany, actually, they synthesized, what they call quinine, which is a strong anti-malaria. That was 1934, Bayer. Now, that went haywire everywhere, treatment for malaria, treatment for fevers and all that. Now, how did it come? It came from a medicinal plant, yeah. Cinchona officinalis. Now, later on, they started having what they call, different synthetic stereoisomers, quinidine, hydrochloroquine. We started having different semi-synthetic analogs of this particular thing. And we started using it, and we're very excited and complacent there. We forgot history, that it came from a medicinal plant. And today, down the lane, after a while, they realized the toxicity of, chloroquine and quinine. And we sort of like face it away, and we started going for what they call artemisinin-based combination, which again comes from what? Artemisia annua, which is again, there's a history. And today now, we've just realized that this plant, chloroquine, is actually good from what has been, propagated for COVID-19, which again is still under, because actually what has happened, I've just read a systematic study which was published in 10th of March from Italy, reviewing the use of chloroquine in treating COVID-19. 10th of March, published in Journal of Critical Care by Italians. Now, they said, of course, there's evidence in preclinical studies, but clinical trials, not yet. So they need to be cautious about that. And they are also calling for WHO to expedite, clinical trials on using chloroquine. Now, you asked about the missing link, which is critical. We forgot about chloroquine because of the side effects, and we forgot about Cinchona officinalis. And we rushed to, we say, okay, we've cheated Mother Nature. We are very smart. We are scientists, so we've cheated Mother Nature. So we are okay, we are complacent. Today again, we are rushing back to chloroquine. And we have forgotten the plant. That plant is still there. And we forgot the fact that there are other plants in Africa, more, that have quinidine, that have the quinolones that are present, and we're not thinking about that as well. Now, everyone, it's so disheartening that we find that people in Nigeria, of course in Africa, they'll be rushing to start swallowing chloroquine, but they forgot that there are so many plants in literature that contain those compounds and can be used as a homeopathic, preparation to be able to treat that. So again, this is the problem that we have. And I'd like to also say that historically, in Peru, if you go to Peru this year will be celebrating the 21st anniversary of holistic integrative medicine in their hospitals. Peru. And that is really, I like that. That is really closing the gap of history. They understood that it came from them, and then they've been able to integrate that component into their healthcare system. I happened to be there, 2016, when they were celebrating the 18th anniversary, of integrative medicine, and they asked me to come as an expert to talk about what is obtainable in Africa. I didn't have a very good story about that. About what is happening in Africa. Because WHO Afro is there. When you talk about the missing link, we've disconnected from the missing link. Have we been able to undertake these studies? And there's a huge study, even in Nigeria universities and high institutions of learning here, and institutes here, they've done a lot on looking at antimicrobial plants. It is lying there, huge volume. Have we been able to take that on board, to be able to see how we weave that into our healthcare system? We've been talking, each time you look at literature, more than thousands of medicinal plants can do this. We keep saying the same thing, defending PhDs, defending masters. Now today, we are caught up with COVID-19, which is a challenge to us today. Isn't this very challenging that we have wonderful expertise in this country and of course across Africa with such a volume of knowledge? Why are we not prepared? Preparation should not be now. Preparation means that we start building a healthcare system that is formidable, bringing in all these different components and putting them together. Let it be there, like he says about, immunology, the immune system, preparing our soldiers to be always ready for that. That's what we need to be doing. And if we go back to literature today, believe me, we have effective information that we can be able to package together to manage COVID-19. It's there in literature, and we should be able to do that.
You see, I always like your perspective to this conversation, because you go back to history to bring up what ought not to have been dropped in the first place. That's why Kesley talked about the missing link. And that's the question I actually wanted Zainab to answer initially, was actually whether there is any plan at the government level to see how we can articulate all these knowledge that you talked about. We have the bank of knowledge when it comes to medical field. We have persons like you who have, of course, done well in your career medically. And we're talking about having a group of persons that will sit down to deliberate on what approach that can be taken traditionally. Yeah. That's why we're talking about the contribution of a traditional approach to it, apart from the orthodox that we already know. And from what you have said, most of these orthodox medicines they came from plants, right? And we have them, as rightly said. And let's bring in a Bunkau here. Bunka, we have listened to other guests, talk about using terminologies that you may not be very familiar with, but you understand, what they are saying. You are head of a traditional medicine outfit. What can you say about the possibility of combining orthodox and traditional medicine in a way to build a kind of interactive medical system that can address COVID-19?
Thank you very much. In my own view, I think we must, that is my own view, we must separate them because we are now looking a way to survive. So when you are looking a way to survive, you don't have to drag all people to follow like the same way. Everybody has his own understanding, his own way that maybe he will feel comfortable to take. Most of us, we did not understand what is the difference between medicine and food. So I think we have to understand that food means medicine. In our own, in my own view, food, when you have to eat something, you make sure that you eat what your system wants, not what your heart wants, or not what your tongue wants, because it is from there we are missing these steps. When you have to take something, you make sure that you take it with the belief and knowledge that this thing maybe is going to work as immune booster or to service your system. I think that way is better, because most of the countries now, or let's say like Jordan, they don't really care much about this taking medicine. Most of them, they don't used to take any food except when they have knowledge about the food. They know what is the food is going to give them, so that they should protect their system, not giving their tongue what the tongue wants, because always your tongue needs taste, and your heart always needs something that even the heart doesn't know what is the dangerous something about that thing that you are going to eat. So I think what we need to do before you take anything, you have to make sure that you know what you are taking, and your system needs what you are taking, because that is the only way we can prevent ourselves from falling sick. Another one that I want to add, is that most of us, we don't give each other space that we need. What do I mean by that? I mean that this thing that came in now, so we need federal government to give us chance, give alternative medicine, give orthodox, give everybody chance, so that you can come with your practice, and from there the government will assess what is good for the people, so that we can terminate this problem that we are in.
Okay, Dr. Adamu Ahmad, thank you very much. And indeed, the other guest, we're going to take a short break now. When we return, of course, we'll continue with our guests and also take the tweets that have poured in from our viewers.
Having not heard of coronavirus?
Coronavirus?
Yes, COVID-19. You know prevention is better than cure. Always have your hand sanitizer with you. Always remember to wash your hands regularly with soap and clean water. Yes. Whenever you want to sneeze or cough, you do it like this. Let's go. Fellow Nigerians, our culture encourages cleanliness. Next ceremony.
This message is from NTA and NCAC.
When I was a little girl, I loved spending time with Mum and Grandma cleaning the house. I was so excited to sing in the choir. And your shirts are always so white. I knew what Mum's secret was. Today, I'm a modern woman that still trusts the secrets passed down to me. It's Jik, of course. The original trusted bleach, which can be used all around your house for amazing results. Shh, it's our little secret. It's no secret. It's Jik's best ever extra whitening power. Just Jik it.
Move now. The red light won't kill you. Move now.
To they disobey traffic law, they cause accidents. Me, I don't talk, say, I no go dey do am again. Because change begins with me.
Cross the other side of the road.
I will no longer endanger my life crossing the express. Instead, I will use the bridge because change begins with me.
Oga driver, stop this bus now, won't come down. I be one carry me past where they go.
Make her they stop anyhow for road, they cause traffic wahala and accidents. So I go they stop for the right bus stop because change begins with me.
Change begins with me.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency in conjunction with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
All right, you're welcome back. And it's still Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Let's bring in Professor Ernest Ugo once again into the conversation. Professor Ernest Ugo, I mean, well, in the face of the coronavirus pandemic, the temptation is very strong for us to forget that every day around and with us are germs. You have bacteria, you also have several viruses that the flora and fauna will have to contend with. And the human beings, of course, have a way of also responding to this, which is why the talk has been about the immune system, how you fortify yourself. Whenever a thief is coming into your system, they quickly get rid of it. If it's an armed robber or an assassin, they have a way of getting rid of it. So, from what you said earlier, and indeed borrowing from what your other colleagues have also said on this program, what do you think we should be doing now? Because if you know, as most others indeed do know, that there's something of a siege mentality that people have now, that this virus is coming, is here, 30, maybe the numbers will explode, and everybody's praying that it doesn't explode. But what do we need to do so that we fortify ourselves in addition to the various measures that government has outlined in terms of social distancing and all of that?
Thank you very much. First of all, I have to thank the government for the efforts they are making, at least in the area of sensitization, and in creating even a department in the Federal Ministry of Health, Department of Tea, Traditional and Complementary Medicine. That's a wonderful effort. Well, what concerns Nigerians now is how to be safe, how to get rid of this virus. I'm sure that is what is in their mind. Apart from distancing and wearing face masks and all washing hands and using sanitizers, from the point of view of alternative medicine, complementary and alternative medicine, apart from the medicines that are being recommended, we have natural remedies like lemon. Lemon can be sliced and put in a cup of warm water, and you can drink it Of course, the aim is to boost the immune system. Water can be constantly taken. Of course, this virus has about 4 types. You have the alpha coronavirus, you have the beta, you have the gamma, and you have the delta. You have about 4 of these. And you know why we call it corona? Because the spikes are covered with a crown-like. That's why the word corona is Greek word, which is crown. And that makes it very stubborn, very, very stubborn virus, especially this new strain of it. So drinking of water, which is natural, can help to flush it down, because we know when it gets to the stomach, the hydrochloric acid doesn't allow it to survive unless it gets into the lungs. So we encourage them to drink water. We encourage them to take lemon. And then my colleague here mentioned Cinchona officinalis. Cinchona officinalis was what gave rise to the discovery of homeopathic medicine. Professor Hahnemann was researching on how to cure malaria. And he got inspired to use this Cinchona officinalis potentized in very infinitesimal potency. And he discovered that so-called attenuated remedies can boost the immune system and bring healing. And that's how homeopathy was discovered. And he started testing other substances and other medicines. So this issue Kirian raised, the issue of getting the alternative medical doctors, complementary doctors, with the orthodox one, of course, it is the work of the government. It's the work of the Federal Ministry of Health to assemble all these experts so that we can bring whatever we have and find something that is peculiar to Nigeria, something we can use. Because China, it's true they have not revealed completely what they are doing, but one can guess that it has to do with the Chinese alternative medicine plus the Western medicine. So I am supporting that suggestion of bringing the complementary alternative doctors, traditional doctors together so that we can bring out our medications and see something that is indigenous.
Correct. Yes.
The final thing I have to say is that if you go to the homeopathic materia medica, researches have been done. In fact, Hahnemann did these researches in 1876. And then that's about 200 plus years ago. And specific symptoms of flu, influenza, and symptoms that resemble the symptoms of coronavirus were all documented then with analogous remedies that can stop them, like acidicum album, lycopodium, what Hajia mentioned, you have allium cepa and allium sativa. That's the onion and the garlic. It has been attenuated and used. And people who were suffering from similar symptoms to corona, they improved and got all right. So these things are in the materia medica and can be harnessed.
Yes.
And even the homeopathic remedies, NAFDAC has been kind enough also to have screened the homeopathic remedies and licensed them. They're registered. So they can be used also with the other systems of alternative medicine.
You're right. So what I actually take away from what you said is a medicine that could be peculiar to Nigeria. Yes. We did it during Ebola. Yeah. When the whole world was waiting for WHO and the US to bring out Ebola's remedy, Nigeria came up with one and was able to solve the problem. That's why I'm interested in bringing our brains together to brainstorm, really, see what we can do. Because the way you have discussed here shows that you are professionals, and if it comes to the practical reality of this, you can equally do something. So I'm coming to you, Dr. John Toh Abedi. WHO made it emphatically clear, as of yesterday, that the figures being given by Africa in terms of infection may not be the true representation. Therefore, we have to be prepared for the worst. What will be your opinion in terms of what we should be doing at this moment? Are we going to continue waiting for WHO to give us what to do? And if you are aware, who knows what the first, the index case, how he was treated. Today he's free. And of course, the second person, which of course, Mamora told us, the Minister of State for Health told us that that didn't take up to 2 days treatment because his immune actually, helped him. The second person, actually helped him, to be free from the virus. What should we be doing?
Well, thank you very much for that question. I think the first answer I'll give to that is what we're doing here, trying to bring, the various experts together. And that's what under the Department of Traditional, Complementary and Alternative Medicine of the Ministry of Health is really doing. I must at this point really commend, the efforts of, the head of that department, pharmacist, Zainab, in this direction. Now to go directly to the question of how to boost the immune system. Yes, there are 2 levels which we can respond to situation. There is what we call, short-term measures and then long-term measures. Most of my colleagues have dealt on what I would say the long-term measures, that is coming to use our traditional, plants or phytochemicals to actually boost our immune system. But for the short-term measures, that what we can do, there is need for nutritional supplementation. These are supplements that will boost our immune system. Take, for example, all over the world now, everybody is talking about vitamin C, vitamin C. And I bet you it is recommended that if you take 5 grams, I'm not talking of milligrams, 5 grams of vitamin C daily in divided doses for a period of 3 weeks, it is able to boost your immune system. There are other things that has to be done in synergy. Also vitamin D. Apparently, most of us are deficient in vitamin D. Gone are the days where all we knew about vitamin D is that, it is a water or fat-soluble, vitamin. Vitamin D now is known to control over 50 different biochemical reactions in the body towards enhancing, the immune system. Thus, in our practice, when you come in and we measure, the level of, vitamin D is, low, the normal level should be about 30 to 100 international units. Honestly, if we see you around 4 international units, and we have patients that come in with that figure, we give you 600,000 units of the international units of vitamin D that is capable of boosting you up. Then after 3 months, that single dose is enough to take you for about 3 months. Once you come back after 3 months, we see the level has bumped up, is then we would encourage you to be on oral doses. Then things like, there are other supplements which we can use immediately. Think zinc. Zinc is actually a metalloenzyme. That is to say that it is involved in biochemical reactions that actually boost, the immune system. So you take a lot of that. Copper is another one. Selenium is another one. So because in this crisis situation, we cannot just fall back to say that, we depend. Because if you are to take enough of some of these green vegetables and this, it will not cope with the immediate or emergency need of the body. Once the body is escalated, that is the level of immune system is escalated to at that level, then you can maintain it on some of these natural, products that we're talking. But before I end, let me bring an update, knowledge about the immune system. 80% of our immune system is now known to be from the gut, what I call the GIT, that is gastrointestinal, tract. And if you want to know, the gut is now classified as a new organ. Those pious patches where, the immune system is there. So that's why we lay a lot of emphasis on detoxification. Where you clean the gut, you clean it properly, there is what we call, microbiome. That is the coexistence of the useful bacteria and the harmful bacteria together. If you want to know, the bacteria in our gut actually communicate with, each other. They communicate with each other and boost our own, immune system. There are several other things that we can interject to give an immediate solution in boosting our immune, system.
I just wondered, just before we take this off, I mean, you're talking about vitamin C. We know that mostly those ones will come from fruits. What are the main sources of vitamin D, for instance?
Well, vitamin D apparently comes from the sun. Our ability of our own body cells to actually manufacture vitamin D. Unfortunately for us blacks, we're deficient in vitamin D for two reasons. First and foremost, the lifestyle changes. How many of us actually stay in the sun in the day? You stay mostly in your air-conditioned car or air-conditioned office, so you are deprived of the sun rays that should manufacture vitamin D for you. Secondly, for us black, when God created us and we were mostly in the tropics with a lot of sun, if the sun will really go through us, it might cause some damage. So we have melanin, which actually protects us from the effect of the sun. So, and apparently melanin and vitamin D, they are kind of active. That's why we are this. But honestly, if you stay in the sun for a certain number of hours, then your body is capable of manufacturing vitamin D.
Yeah, but some people are taking what we know today as a multivitamin. Say some of them written A to Z. What does that mean? There's some multivitamin people take these days. Some of them are made by different companies in the US and elsewhere. You see people carrying it around and say this is a multivitamin. Some of them say A to Z and what have you. We don't get the vitamin D from that.
Well, depending on what level you are, honestly, there is so much commercialization, and that's why before you take any of this, you seek expert, advice. Like I wouldn't take any of this if I don't look at what they call nutritional supplement, information. I look at what is really there. Yes. And then talking about oral dosing, honestly, in emergency or highly deficient state, oral dosing may come secondary because you're highly deficient. There is what we call bioavailability. If you take oral dosing, we know that the bioavailability is just 30%. So if you are talking about 1,000 milligrams of vitamin D, only 300 milligrams gets absorbed. That's why these days we're looking at injectable forms that can boost you up to that level, and then you can do the maintenance dose.
Dr. Agbidi, thanks a lot, and indeed the other guest. Kirian, let's go through the tweets now, and then probably get the closing thoughts from our guest. Ayola Tawhid Adeni, alternative medicine for COVID-19 in Nigeria is not feasible for now because our research institutes and Center for Disease Control are not ready for the challenge. How much is government giving them? All these questions need to be addressed.
Now, from Chris Simeon, findings from physicians in the medical laboratory revealed that chloroquine could be used in treating the virus. If it is true, government must make sure every hospital and clinic has it in abundance. May God heal this country. Of course, we have told you that the head of NAFDAC said that it is still being a trial.
Evaluated, that's right.
At the trial stage, although she has also asked Mayor Baker to get into action in terms of reproduction.
Yeah, and some persons are said to have already suffered from chloroquine poisoning in the Lagos area because they just popping it like it's some preventive medicine. Don't go and kill yourself. That's what has been said. Akeju Olagbaju has this next tweet. Now, this is a period of emergency, and the use of alternative medicine may not be appropriate now. Not because it may not be efficacious, but the fear of false claims by the practitioners. For now, it's safe and indeed safer to cling to WHO guidelines. I think we need to clarify this. Nobody is making any false claims here, Kirian. And the WHO guidelines, our guests have also referred to what WHO recognizes as for medical practice, and of what we refer to, what we can loosely refer to as alternative medicine, is one of the three recognized by WHO.
Akeju was just expressing fear.
That's right.
Raji Afiz Abidemi. Honestly, the figures of those affected is increasing every day in Nigeria, and we should take this saga seriously because Nigerians are playing with it. We should move away from congregational gathering.
Hassan Adamo, Nigerians need to be sensitized and encouraged to report any case of COVID-19 for early diagnosis, and our medical experts too need to tell Nigerians the medication that will be helpful in managing the virus so that our local clinics can help in the fight against the virus. If the medical experts will not tell you what the medication is, so you don't go and start engaging in self-medication. If you are sick, go to a qualified physician.
Now, Bashiru says, given past experiences, supposing an alternative medicine is found in Africa, would it be accepted by the rest of the world, especially the West? Let's clear ourselves first.
Precisely. I mean, that's very appropriate. Those who don't want to take it, that's, yes, you know. This is Bashiru, giving past experience, that's what you just read now, Kirian. Festus Akimboyewa, for now, our best alternative medicines, according to Festus Akimboyewa, are regular washing of hands or use of alcohol-based sanitizer, not touching eyes, nose, and mouth with unwashed hands, avoid crowd or stay at home, disinfect frequently touched objects in our home, cover cough and sneeze with a tissue and bin it.
Now, Comrade Ngala says we are not producing medicine in Nigeria. That's according to him. Apart from paracetamol and others, and nobody will sacrifice and go to China or any other developed nation to bring medicine. Then, the only alternative is prayers and proper hygiene.
Well, our experts have been talking about other things that you need to do in terms of your immune system. So just beyond prayers. Prayers is one of it, they say spiritual perspective. But what do you do to fortify your system against the many germs and viruses that are out there in the environment? Francis Obi, alternative medicine is possible, but the concerned institution should have commenced work since after testing the virus to know exactly what can easily destroy it and the effect of that on humans.
Now, Abel Mark says alternative medicine is not the answer. COVID-19 originally is a bat disease. That's according to him. It was isolated from bat and genetically modified. Scientists should first examine bat diseases and then the fatal chemicals that were added. Nevertheless, which vaccine did the health authorities use to cure the Italian man?
Now, Mutana Farouk, there is no malady that has no remedy. The possibility of alternative medicine against the current pandemic is superable. But the question is, how researchable are we? If we are, would it be funded? I hope we will learn a lesson from all of these.
Abubakar Mohammed, I think the alternative for Nigerians is prevention from what government, professionals and other agencies told us to do. This is the medicine for us.
Yakubu Lawan, people need to take care of their diet in case of improving their immune system against a deadly disease.
Oladimiji Morufu, he says such an idea of alternative medicine is quite important. As I said the other time, our forefathers used concoction called Abotutu in Yoruba land for strange illnesses.
Umoru Ale says your guests are embarking on generalizations and technicalities. Let them name one indigenous plant with antiviral properties, and Niprid should take it up and give us an acceptable dosage form in weeks. We will be on the world map.
Farouk Abimbola Abdul Salam, can you please tell your experts to break their prescriptions to the least way to allow viewers who are not educated enough to know how to do all that has been said? Thank you all.
All right. Well, those are the tweets that we have. We didn't bring in our experts here to come and be giving you prescriptions on what you need to do on your own. We've just talked in general terms about dealing with viruses and COVID-19, and more particularly the fact of what has been referred to as a missing link, the apparent missing link. We've been hearing about the moves by WHO and indeed national health authorities on what is being done, and they've focused essentially this morning on the immune system. Yes. You as an individual, how you fortify yourself. I mean, if you don't have the virus already, how do you fortify yourself so that if the virus, assuming the virus gets into you, your own body will have to first fight against it.
And for those of them who take a lot of alcohol, of course, that will also reduce the level of your immune system, and of course when you're attacked, you are going to be in a very deep trouble. Well, I think we have to appreciate our viewers, our guests this morning for being part of our show. Zainab Sharif Judith, of course, Director and Head of Department, Traditional, Complementary and Alternative Medicine, Federal Minister of Health. We thank you for your coming, just as always.
Thank you.
Dr. John Tor Abidi, General Secretary, Interactive Medicine, West Africa, and founder, CEO, Integrative Medicine, yes. Founder, CEO, In-Country Medicare. It's a pleasure having you on the show today. And then Professor Ernest Hugo, Professor of Homeopathic Pharmacology and Therapeutics, and President Nigerian Institute of Homeopathy.
Homeopathy.
Yeah, homeopathy. We thank you indeed for coming and for sharing your wealth of experience. Professor Kenneth Achang Yongabi, Professor of Public Health, Infectology and Phytobiotechnology, Faculty of Health Science, Imo State University, Owerri. Thank you indeed for sharing your thoughts and, of course, your wealth of experience on this matter. And, of course, our friend Dr. Adamu Ahmad Bunkau, holistic medicine expert and chief consultant, Bunkau Traditional Medicine and Clinics, is from Nasarawa State.
Thank you.
All right, so that does it for us today on Good Morning Nigeria. If one of the many takeaways from today's conversation, Kirian, when people see you walking in the sun, let them not assume that you are suffering. You are indeed getting the right amount of sun so that you can have that. So today, that's been it for us on Good Morning Nigeria. We'll see you tomorrow, same time, 7 o'clock in the morning. Have a nice day. I'm Kingsley.
And I am Kirian.